Everyone has their fears, be it spiders, heights, or clowns, but these prison inmates are worth keeping your distance from. From the spread of diseases to committing felonies, there are a broad range of acts that place you on the wrong side of the law. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at 3 inmates who, one way or another, are pretty frightening. Eyeball. Jason Barnum has earned the nickname Eyeball, though oddly enough, his crimes have nothing to do with eyes. The Alaskan man committed his crimes in 2012, though was not sentenced until 2015, where he was given 22 years in prison in Anchorage Superior Court. This 37-year-old man pleaded guilty to charges of first-degree murder, first-degree burglary, and first-degree felony in possession of a weapon. Barnum shot at a police officer whilst the police were looking into and investigating a series of home burglaries and car thefts when one of the cars known to be involved was spotted outside of a motel. Led to room 209 of the Inner Hotel, the police were able to handcuff some of those with Barnum when Eyeball used a gun confirmed to be stolen from one of the homes they had broken into to shoot at the officers. There is a strong suspicion that he was high during this attack. One officer was hit, with a bullet making its way down the back of his vest, though he was fortunately making a full recovery, after having just a few stitches. Eyeball confessed to 3 of the burglaries under investigation, claiming he had done so to fuel his drug habit. Despite this string of serious offences, the public narrative seems to focus so heavily on his plethora of scary tattoos, most notably the white of his eye being blackened, earning Eyeball his famous alias. With a skull on his head and a series of rather frightening inked-on images, there certainly is controversy as to whether this self-image can clue us in on what type of person he is. Whilst this idea was a common presence in the courtroom, many people's minds and stereotypes, Barnum is used as a central study in the book Eyeball Man by Sarah Thomason, in which she debates whether tattoos make you criminal, if a criminal is more likely to be heavily tattooed, or if this style is reflective of poor life choices in general. For Eyeball, this story does not seem too far off. A man on trial instantly judged on his looks, with Anchorage Police Department Chief Mark Mew stating, "I think Jason Barnum decided a long time ago that his life was about being hostile to people," and following on by saying, "He has the right to do this to himself and express himself." We cannot sentence him for that, but I think we can consider a guy's attitude and his behaviour. When in court for first-degree attempted murder, among his accumulated other offences are his tattoos considered to be more indicative of his behaviour and attitude than the charges he is pleading guilty to. Eyeball has been charged with felonies in the past, including forgery, with a criminal record making note of him from 1993, and frequently since, with burglary charges in 1994, 2000, and 2005. He has been charged with a total of 14 previous convictions. At the time, he was also tied to a series of white supremacist crimes, possibly connected to these ones, and supported by his appearance in Facebook groups where he was pictured wearing an iron cross with a swastika. Mary Mallon. Not your traditional inmate by any means, but a famous and terrifying case nonetheless. With the reputation of the most dangerous woman in America, Mary Mallon, perhaps better known as Typhoid Mary, lived much of her life in isolation. A total of nearly 3 decades, listed as a de facto prisoner, with the ethics and legality of this being questioned drastically to date. With Typhoid Mary being a popular idiom for someone who spreads and carries misfortune, this phrase has not been coined out of thin air. Mary Mallon, presumed to have been born with typhoid fever after her mother contracted the illness whilst pregnant, is thought to have been the first asymptomatic carrier of the disease. Working as a cook, she is believed to have spread the disease to 53 others, resulting in 3 deaths, though many suggest the real number could be much higher. Typhoid fever is a bacterial infection. It spreads through the body, infecting organs. The spread of typhoid fever is rapid due to the highly contagious nature. Caused by Salmonella typhi, a bacterium linked with salmonella and food poisoning, Typhoid fever is often passed through infected stools or urine, when small quantities are consumed within meals, easily spread by an unknowing cook. Typical symptoms include a high temperature, headaches, and accompanying pains, coughs, and constipation. Mallon had been arrested as a public health threat in 1907. Forced into an ambulance, she was contained and forced to deliver samples, all of which showed a great deal of typhoid bacteria, suggesting the gallbladder was her worst affected organ. She was quarantined and recommended for her gallbladder to be removed, though due to it being such a dangerous procedure at the time and her avid denial that she was a carrier, she refused. There were arguments made debating whether Mary should be forced into quarantine, even amongst medical experts, with some arguing a better solution, a fairer one to her quality of life, would be to learn how to best avoid the transmission to others, but not having to live in a continued isolation. Though with little funds and a talent for cooking, Mallon was against a career change. In a letter to her lawyer, Mallon wrote she felt as though she had been treated like a guinea pig. In the duration of this first quarantine, Mallon's medical treatment was barbaric, to say the least. Giving mandatory samples thrice a week and given medication that posed a threat to the health of her kidneys, all against her will. Furthermore, when her eye became paralyzed, Mary was denied access to a doctor for 6 months, instead being left to simply bandage her eye at night. When told, in 1907, that she appeared to be a carrier, Mary denied this, never accepting within her lifetime that she had typhoid. When she sent samples to independent labs, her results all came back negative, despite the evidence during her hospital stay. Eventually giving in, Mallon was permitted to leave her isolation if she stopped cooking, though it did not take more than a few years before she began cooking once again, taking on alternate surnames, including Breshoff and Brown, to avoid suspicion. With a constant shifting of workplace, it became difficult to track Mallon down, though she left outbreaks of typhoid following her wherever she went. Police caught up to her in 1915, and she spent the remainder of her life in quarantine, eventually dying of pneumonia in 1938. A woman imprisoned essentially for being born. Whilst not her fault that she had this disease, the spreading of such an illness and her constant evasion has led many to suggest up to 50 fatalities could be tied to her name. Typhoid Mary lives on in our modern-day language, though Mallon herself left a legacy of ethical healthcare practice, forcing many to question the fair treatment of patients. Lawrence Patrick Sullivan, the Joker. Known as Florida's real-life Joker, or even simply the Miami Joker, Lawrence Patrick Sullivan has had a few run-ins with the law and has been seemingly identified time and time again by his distinctive look. This green-haired tattoo model features a Joker-like grin tattooed on his face, and it is a look that has, according to him, served him well. Way back in 2017, Lawrence Patrick Sullivan was arrested when he haphazardly waved a loaded firearm at oncoming cars in Miami. Calls to the police described him as man dressed like the Joker. Sullivan claims his lack of a permit for his weapon was due to the cost, that it was too expensive to obtain the correct permit for the firearm. Under the laws in Florida, this could equate to a 5-year sentence. When imprisoned, Sullivan was reportedly proud of his tattoos, stating, "I was treated like a celebrity inside," immediately continuing to say, "I was on the psych floor because I take medications." His mum has since commented, explaining he is mentally disabled and is handicapped. Some have been skeptical of this claim. Having been released from jail, he was arrested once again in the November of 2018 for the flouting of probation laws, smoking an illegal substance. When a probation violation is logged alongside his previous offence, Sullivan could be looking at a fine of $5,000 alongside a third-degree felony charge. His assortment of tattoos extends beyond the Joker grin, and 2 other Batman-themed tattoos, as well as a cross, sword, leaves of substances, the Grim Reaper and Freddy Krueger, all making an appearance. Sullivan does not appear to be the only Joker-themed criminal roaming Florida. with one Christopher Sides telling the police he embodied the Joker when he was arrested at the cinema. Whilst the Joker may be fictional, the tattoo replications of his iconic appearance and accompanying acts are all very real. But what do you make of these 3 true criminal stories and their behaviour? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comments section below and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.